Hello, welcome back to the Caring Conversations studio, live from the Care Show at the NEC in Birmingham. We have another interviewee in the studio. Petra, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Lovely, well, thank you for coming. Do you want to tell us a bit who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Petra Meinlova and I work with a range of care providers on their marketing strategy. So I would support them as an outsourced marketing director.
Perfect. How does that sort of articulate itself in a day-to-day for you then? Do you work with different companies or do you work with one at a time? How does it work?
I work with different companies and different care organizations need different things. So usually they would bring me in if they are looking at building a marketing strategy. They may have a marketing team already and I would come in as an external pair of eyes to build up the messaging, the structure, the communications and how to target the right audiences with messages and tools that are appropriate and relevant.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about the future of the workforce and obviously big part of marketing. And I don't know when this quite happened. I think it might have been through COVID. Suddenly the recruitment department went to the marketing department and said, oh, we need to market our recruitment, don't we? And they went, yeah, you do. And then suddenly the marketing department is in charge of recruitment marketing as well. So what's a kind of, typically for an organisation, how would you help them with their recruitment marketing?
Quite often organizations haven't quite worked out the messaging that is relevant for prospective and existing employees, and staff shortages are experienced by many care providers. So looking at how people engage within the organization with their staff team, from celebrating small achievements, having access to leadership and being able to raise a hand when they see something that is really great but also something that isn't so good. And then utilizing all of the marketing tools, digital, social media, to really celebrate people and the good practice that there is. There's been...
Yeah, no, I was going to say, what do you see when people are kind of coming forward for care jobs? What stuff's important for them in terms of, like, what's the top information you're delivering in terms of benefits of working for the organisations?
It's interesting because it varies, and we've heard a lot about Generation X and millennials, and so the messaging needs to be really well targeted. So it could be learning and development, it could be progression pathways, it may be having a voice and being an equal partner in the care business or the care operation. So there's a lot of thinking in terms of who do we speak to and what really resonates with them. And I think the younger generation that is coming into the sector have got loads of really great ideas, and it's making sure that everybody has a voice.
And I guess also they're very sort of native with technology as well. So if you've got kind of a heavy amount of technology in care, which more and more now is the case, then targeting that younger generation could be really valuable, right?
Absolutely. And it is using different types of technologies. And one of my recent projects has been looking at how do we engage with the younger audiences versus people who may be in their 40s, 50s, joining the care sector. So there's a clear differentiator between what matters to them and how we engage.
So how do you do that then in terms of, I guess, because ultimately when you're recruiting, you can't kind of say how old you want someone to be, but ultimately you can design a job advert in a different way that might attract a different audience. How do you, say, target a younger audience versus an older audience in terms of people looking for work?
So the messaging is key. So looking at what matters to the young people who are part of that process. So learning, development, progression pathways, being able to work for an organization that has got value and purpose and really stands behind it. Sustainability and the ESG focus has also become a little bit more prominent. And I think people want to make a difference in terms of what they do and why they do it. So clearly defining the whys, why do we do what we do, beyond the we want to deliver high quality care, and how does that then relate to me as an employee. And equally, if it's people of my generation, 40s plus, there's progression, there's pathways, but also that having a voice, I think, is a really important aspect. So, we have walked in the shoes of a lot of care providers, and we know how the system works. So being able to contribute to how things operate, how things are, and being able to build the strategies, whether it's operations or governance or marketing or whatever other clinical therapeutic interventions it may be, it's a hugely important aspect of
I think
care.
In my experience, people ultimately want autonomy, and that's quite difficult to deliver in the care sector because there's lots of processes and systems that you need to follow. But I think if any level of autonomy you can offer, I think it's less about, you've got this app that gives you 20% off cinema tickets. It's more about the kind of general conditions and the general understanding. And, are you an organisation that, if you recruit someone who's in their 20s, they want the organisation to understand that sometimes they might not feel well enough to come to work and that they might want to have a bit of flexibility and do these different things. So, I think those things are quite important to deliver as part of their strategy.
Absolutely. I think that it is absolutely right that it's not just about the core benefits that a lot of providers offer, the money off and coupons, but there's a lot of really good stuff like GP access that a lot of providers now do and is really relevant to the kind of health and well-being of the people that work within the sector. And it's a hard job delivering care in often challenging situations. So focusing on health, well-being, flexibility, engagement, and I think even just being able to speak to the senior leaders who often are seen as not understanding what it's like to be on the shop floor, so to speak, is great. If there is recognition from the senior leaders that they understand what it's like, I think it creates a lot of value in the eyes of the carers.
What's a kind of top tip or the first thing that you do when you go into a new company in terms of helping them improve their marketing? Where do you look first?
If we talk about staff engagement, I love doing a thank you board.
A
thank you board.
A thank you board, okay.
It can be done as a physical board, or it can be done as a digital tool where anybody in the organisation or everybody in the organisation is asked to say thank you to a colleague, to their line manager, to anybody they would like to recognise within the group that they work with. And the stories that come out of that are heartwarming, amazing. There's a lot of love and dedication that is captured within those messages. And from a marketing perspective, they're great because they add to the narrative that the care provider may want to put out there. Internally, it creates a great buzz because everybody is excited. Adding on to that, there could be cross-discipline celebrations, so it is not the line manager who is recognizing, but it creates more visibility if somebody from a different department then says thank you. And having a consistency in messaging in that process of celebration is creates a really good storytelling for the marketing team.
Perfect. And then when it comes to marketing, what obviously there's 30 different disciplines within marketing. Where do you go first? What's your key one? What do you think is one of the most important ones? Obviously, we don't have to tell the others. It's fine. What kind of, where do you go to first?
It's interesting when I meet providers for the first time and I ask them a similar question. They say, well, it depends. It depends on the person that we support in terms of what plan we put in place. And I think the answer is probably the same. We look at some of the priorities, so whether it is occupancy, whether it is staff recruitment or reputation, or building a cohesive strategy between the different departments, and then build a plan. So I love data, so looking at any kind of data, looking at the leaker bucket if it's relating to occupancy that need to be addressed, looking at the journey, whether it is an employee or a customer, and what the experience really feels like for them.
Perfect, right, lovely. Well, thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
It's been nice talking to you, and we will be back shortly with another interview.